Hello, Brighteon.tv fans. I'm Dr. Brian Ardis. This is the Dr. Ardis Show. I hope you guys have had a great week. There's been lots of things going on over the last couple of weeks. You're probably seeing them in the media. Gateway Pundit, Epoch Times, all kinds of people are reporting on this lawsuit that's been filed out in Fresno, California. Peter McCullough, myself, Angie Farella, Lindsay, Dr. Lindsay, Jancy Lindsay, toxicologist out of Texas. It was very interesting to go to Fresno, California, do this press conference. Fox News is even there. It was very exciting. Brighteon TV and Mike Adams helped make sure that was streamed live for the world to watch. I just want to say it was a great honor to stand there with these other patriots and doctors on behalf of humanity and for the innocent who had early treatment denied to them. And then those same treatments they were using outpatient, they were restricted to being used inpatient, such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, which were used successfully around the planet to help people combat the side effects of COVID and the complications from that. It was a great honor. You're going to see, by the time this airs, you will see also Children's Health Defense has written up a great article on this entire presentation we did there. We'll be right back. You're not going to want to miss today's show. All right, I'm Dr. Ardis. We're back here. We're excited about these two 22-minute segments. We've got two MDs here to help expose some of the narrative here and then what you need to know. The whole goal of the Dr. Ardis Show is to bring inspiration and hope in areas of life and in health. And these two guys are going to help answer a lot of questions that we've had that people have been reporting to, experiencing as far as side effects, worries, long haulers with COVID-19. We're about to blow the lid off of that with some stuff you guys need to know and need to share worldwide. All right, first sponsor for this first 22-minute segment, though, is going to be, throw it up on the screen, NorthTexasHealingCenter.com. If you live with any symptoms worldwide, they actually, via telemedicine, treat and help find the causes for your underlying symptoms and diseases. Contact them today at NorthTexasHealingCenter.com or call them at 214-705-9369. Tell them I sent you. I mean, I built that clinic in 2009. BrighteonStore.com is the next sponsor. Thank you to Brighteon.tv and Mike Adams. The promo code is DOCTOR. You save 5% off of anything you purchase there. Please support Mike Adams as he supports all those trying to get uncensored material to the innocent around the world. And then go to MyPillow.com. If you go there, use the promo code DOCTOR. Same promo code, DOCTOR, for our audiences. You can save up to additional percentages of, like what you see on the screen, upwards of 66% off a whole bunch of items there. Go get pillows, slippers, whatever, to make yourself comfortable at home while you watch the fiasco around the world called COVID-19 pandemic crumble. All right, next is GraithCare.com. Go to GraithCare.com, as you see on the screen. Promo code is DOCTOR. You'll save 10% off of any advocacy support and membership that you want there. They can help you get off medications if you're living on medications and want to live drug-free. If you're in hospitals and need help, this is the advocacy team for all 50 states and Canada. Go to GraithCare.com. While it lasts, I'm offering a advocacy support in specific health concerns for individuals around the world. If you want my input on your health, click the AAA advocacy button there. AAA stands for Ardis Advocacy Advice. Anyway, that's our sponsors for this first 22 minutes. It's time to welcome in our audiences to these two, what I consider heroes. They're sitting out in Iowa right now, but we've got two medical doctors. We've got Brad Meyer and we've got Ted Fogarty, who I mentioned before we started recording. He must be related to John Fogerty, one of my favorite songs, Put Me in Coach. It's time to put us in. All right, welcome to the show. And you two, please introduce yourselves, your backgrounds, why you became MDs, and then what you're so excited about, because we've got at least 40 minutes here to discuss what you guys have learned and have been exposing in the way of how to improve the health of people around the world as COVID continues to ramp on. Introduce yourselves there. We'll start with you, Dr. Ted Fogarty.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Ardis. I'm actually not related to John Fogerty, but rather Dr. Tom Fogerty, who invented the Fogerty catheter in 1963 that saved a lot of people from blood clots into the lungs during the 60s and 70s. And then we kind of switched over to medical therapeutics for pulmonary emboli. And
well, you're still putting something in, right? Put me in, coach, put in a catheter.
Right.
It's all the same thing, right?
Put in the Fogerty catheter and extract the clots, right?
That's right. Bring it on.
So I've been a teaching physician, chair of radiology at the University of North Dakota School of Medicine from 2006 until 2019. And I've been academic researcher in hyperbaric medicine. I'm kind of the LSU imaging guru for Dr. Paul G. Harch's work. Dr. Harch has basically figured a way out to reverse engineer the healing codes of God's mRNA imbued in all of us through his career, and has brought back, kids who are supposed to be permanently vegetative. He's actually been reversing dementia and started that in 2002. And he's the world's most important physician in the 21st century, in my opinion. And he has never really received much limelight or accolades for what he has brought into American medicine that could save us and our country a huge amount of wasted dollars on expensive drugs and therapies that just don't work. And just for the audience, if you want to get a quick picture of Dr. Harch's work and my work together, you can do a search in any browser and search Harch, Harch, Fogarty, Fogarty, and Hyperbaric, and you'll pull up all kinds of incredible cases and miraculous healing endeavors through the simple physics of pressure vessels. Without much further ado, my partner, and consider Bradley a brother.
He is a brother. He actually stood with me in Iowa at a rally to testify on behalf of
Bradley
everyone
Meyer,
being traumatized, all that good stuff. Yes, Brad, you're awesome. We're glad you're here.
So Brad, just go into your background here.
Yeah, so I did my my medical training in Des Moines, and so I'm an osteopathic physician and family physician. Did my residency at the University of Nebraska Med Center in Omaha, Nebraska, with the Air Force as well. And so I'm also a U.S. Air Force veteran, left as a major, deployed over to the Middle East in 2011, and then returned back to Iowa and practiced family medicine in the Des Moines metro area for about 8 years, then back to my hometown in Northwest Iowa resort region called Okoboji. I did more hospital care and outpatient family practice care here. But both of those, that 11-year span, I've been tied to the corporate conglomerates that control doctors. And I got a taste of the change in loss of control, autonomy of physician management when it comes to caring for our patients. And it got worse significantly during COVID-19. And so I was on the boat early on saying, what can we do to treat and keep our folks out of the emergency room and not waiting till they're blue-lipped and they're wanting to throw tubes down their throat, right? And so I started with the hydroxychloroquine, did a lot of research on that with Zev Zelenko, and then talked to Pierre Corey in December of 2020, and started having great success with early treatment ivermectin. So ultimately, I wanted to do that inpatient in the hospital and was denied the ability to do that. I also would tell my patients, the corporate heads out of Sioux Falls told me to stop talking about the vaccine because I'd confuse the community. And then lo and behold, a patient of mine taught me or introduced me to Dr. Fogarty because she had long COVID. And she's like, this guy, he's a radiologist, that brilliant guy out of North Dakota that is very accessible. Just call him. And because she needs some hyperbaric therapy for her long COVID. So I did that. We started a friendship that manifested into a practice together. But before that even happened, we were talking across state lines. How can we innovate together to treat COVID instead of just stick to the CDC script of what we are allowed to do to treat our patients? He brought up IV N-acetylcysteine, which is a glutathione precursor. Use it all the time for liver toxicity with Tylenol, acetaminophen overdose. And I had a patient that was heading towards the ICU, and I called Dr. Fogarty, and I'm like, what thoughts here? Because I know my ivermectin script is going to get canceled again on the floor of the hospital. She's going to need oxygen, including possibly intubation here in the ICU in a matter of no time. And so he brought in the ivermectin or the IV N-acetylcysteine play. 3 days on the IV N-acetylcysteine, Marilyn dramatically improved. She was discharged, and about a day before that, that time, I got brought in and I got my pink slip from the suits from Sioux Falls here in Northwest Iowa. And so that started my journey into the alternative. I don't like to call all the stuff the chiropractors and some of our innovative health partners have been doing over the years alternative, because in many ways I think it's more advanced and looking at more of a broad scope of what has been tamped down over the years by big pharma. And so Dr. Fogarty kindly introduced me into the fold of hyperbaric mitochondrial medicine, and has since introduced me to Dr. Paul Harch and out of LSU. And the story goes on. We've been seeing some incredible miracle stories here with 1.3 atmosphere ATA pressure of hyperbarics in the clinic. So we started a clinic together that it's called Aeronautics Performance Clinic, and we're treating everything from soup to nuts, long haul COVID, vaccine injury, post-stroke, dementia recoveries, MS, things that would blow your mind and our nursing staff's mind if people really knew how effective hyperbarics were across this country. We wouldn't be able to, there's so many people to heal, we couldn't keep up with it all.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so I want to ask a few things, bring a few things to relevance, and then share a few thoughts. Okay, now y'all are in Iowa. One of you lives in Nebraska or stays in Nebraska. There is someone else there. Y'all mentioned Zelenko and Pierre Corey. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I have great admiration for both these people. I think they've been wonderful humanitarians and doctors on behalf of being honest and looking for ways to save people's lives. And Pierre Corey, for example, identifying early in May of 2020 that the restricted allowance to use corticosteroids for patients, I just thought that was phenomenal and absolutely a truth that should have been shared and allowed. And his frustration, obviously, and the corruptness he's been voicing is outright warranted, I believe. Zev Zelenko, since March of 2020, along with Ben Marble, together at the same time, put out their the Zelenko protocol, if you want to call it, azithromycin, hydroxychloroquine, and zinc, and it's had miraculous results. All these people are heroes, in my opinion. There is someone very close to where you guys are right now that, to me, has been an amazing truth teller that I have enjoyed getting to know, has military background also, Iowa, Nebraska roots, and that's Dr. Lee Merritt. I love that lady. She's phenomenal.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's a close friend of ours.
Yeah, I love that lady. She's very familiar with our audiences. Our audience is familiar with her, but it's been a great collaboration, and it's really funny. She'll call or text every once in a while and go, I really have a hard time knowing who in the world to trust anymore. God, it feels so good to know I can trust you, Dr. Ardis. And this has been a great friendship and camaraderie. But it's really been an amazing time, I think, over the last 2.5 years to see so many individuals, regardless of alternative medicine views, DOs, MDs, come together, scientists, attorneys, all coming together going, as a team, we need to be united in some front to save as many lives as possible and make sense of this chaos and outright what I would consider medical lies and corruption and evil. But anyway, these people have been great for me. You mentioned Dr. Meyer. You said that a pink slip was brought to you. Now, when I hear the word pink slip, I just want to make sure people understand what you're referencing. When I hear pink slips, I picture like a Fast and Furious movie where you're playing for a title of your car and you're going to race and you're going to lose your title. What do you mean by pink slips? You shared a great testimony there in the Iowa State Capitol building about your personal experience working in a hospital. And I actually stood there trying to defend you, and everyone else was there too. It was a great group of docs there. Molly James and others have all been doing a great job of making people aware of what's going on and what's wrong with everything that's going on. But tell a little bit of your story there.
Yeah, no, they had warned me a couple of times prior to getting the, I guess, quote unquote, walk of shame. They walked me out. They fired me without cause. But they had warned me a couple of months prior that I better stop prescribing ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and talking to my patients. That I guess the straw that broke the camel's back was the great advice that I got from Dr. Fogarty on the IV N-acetylcysteine, because that was trying to find the window, which is all right when we're trying to find an answer and the system is saying no. There have been a lot more IV N-acetylcysteine uses across this country working.
People are getting IV NAC for Tylenol overdoses in the middle of the COVID despair pandemic leading to suicide by Tylenol overdose. And so, I'm here, across every night, every working night in multiple states, including Texas and Florida, and talking to ER docs and advising them, and family practice docs, advising them across state lines to start looking at IV NAC for use in COVID. And I actually got that instituted in several patients in Oklahoma who were pregnant and getting CTHS for rule out PE who had mild COVID and to protect the fetus. And so there's this incredible basically racketeering of our physician practices across state lines in America. And Brad is he's got a potentially huge racketeering case with me against several entities in between the Dakotas and Nebraska and Iowa. But I do want to touch on, you're mentioning these luminaries that have come out of the woodwork over the last 3 years. But, I led a conference in March 6th, Friday, March 6th of 2020 at the Harvard Club in New York City with Dr. Albert Crum, who got a patent in Canada for the antiviral claims for glutathione amino acid precursors, and it covers all the viral classes, including coronaviruses. And this patent came down in Canada on February 19th of 2020. And according to the International Patent Cooperative Treaty, the Canadian patent has jurisdiction in America, and Albert Crum's formulation of, it's just Mother Nature's recipe for glutathione intracellularly, should have been employed wide scale in this country to save people and protect healthcare workers during the pandemic. And this is going a little more deep state into the intel of academia, but Dr. Crum and Julia Hilliard, who is a virologist at Georgia State University in the CDC's backyard, the same month that Paul Harch and I published in the in the medical literature, the reversal of dementia protocols, PET proven, is the same month that Albert Crum and Julia Hilliard published the intracellular study of how glutathione levels inside the cell can shut down the reverse transcriptase of all of these viruses. But they tested it on Zika virus and dengue and came out with that paper January 2019. And circling back now to 1991, if anybody listening to us could just go on PubMed and do a search on Fauci and NAC, and you're going to pull up, in 1991, Tony Fauci had already proven in an HIV model with 3 other researchers using our tax dollars that the most powerful nutraceutical for our immune system is actually cysteine, one amino acid. And it's that same amino acid that we've been saving all these livers in emergency rooms for decades with. And, going back into the pulmonary world, and one of my mentors, Mickey Keim, pulmonologist who trained at Iowa and set up the first hyperbaric unit in the state of Nebraska, he and I were talking about how cystic fibrosis kids had a death sentence by the age of 35 before NAC came along, which has a trade name of Mucomyst or acetadote in the emergency medicine ranks. Before that single amino acid powerhouse came along in clinical medicine, we had children dying of cystic fibrosis related chronic pulmonary disease. And that's protected all sorts of children in America from the 1970s onward. And I've got a history of reading hundreds of chest films on cystic fibrosis patients all across the country and in North Dakota. And what really happened, this was the Manhattan Project, from Dr. Crum, myself, Dr. Paul Hartz was part of this conference, who had already started getting intel from Wuhan, China physicians regarding their use of hyperbarics to recover severe COVID patients. And we had this big conference. Judy Mikovits was there at the start of it. Vera Sharav was there at the end of it. And James Grundvig was kind of my press person. I'm not sure if you're familiar with James Grundvig, but he wrote Master Manipulator and documented the tax fraud of the CDC through Dr. Paul Thorson, who's a psychiatrist out in Northern Europe, who basically whitewashed the data that shows that these vaccines in the pediatric population are definitely leading to increased autism rates. So we got this, we had this day-long meeting, and we put all these kind of thoughts together between the twin engines of our mitochondria, which is increased reactive oxygen species and oxygen driving the electron transport chain, and then glutathione amino acid precursors going in and basically acting as the gear lube, so that all of our white cells are running on a supercharged kind of system and can build the proteins and the T cell receptors and antibodies that they need to, as fast as they can, to defeat any of these RNA pandemic viruses. And so that conference then dovetailed into me getting together with a lot of our nation's finest engineers, actually, and some other physicians, one down in Texas, and we created a website and a white paper and a protocol how to use aircraft as hyperbaric vessels in a MASH unit concept at every airport in America to achieve the levels of air pressure that Orville Cunningham did in 1918 in basically a fuselage on the side of his home. As he was the chair of anesthesiology at the University of Kansas, he had a 1.6 ATA multi-place chamber that could fit about 30 people in it, running air protocols alone to reverse Spanish influenza. And basically, his first patient was a medical resident. And, back in those days in Kansas City, these were all kind of, small shops of people just starting to get caught up in the whole Flexner report thing. And Orville Cunningham set as a Hippocratic example how the American physicians should have been using their brains to figure out that we just needed to supersaturate every cellular space in the human body with increased oxygen under pressure to save all these lives of all these patients who have whiteout lung tissues on these chest films and CTs that I'm reading. And you simply bypassing the entire blockade of all these capillaries by simple physics of oxygen saturation. And I wrote all this up into a one-page letter and sent it to the White House even. And there's a whole lot of people in this malignant, it's a murderous racket.
Yes, it is. All right, we're gonna hold this thought.
Who really already know about hyperbarics, including the U.S. senators from the states of North Dakota. They both know exactly what hyperbaric medicine can do. And so there's a whole lot of people who need a bit of a come to Jesus for saying that the hyperbaric vessels aren't the arcs we all needed for this pandemic and all future pandemics. There's no pandemic that can ever harm the world and the world's children if we all just start understanding aircrafthbot.org concepts.
That's awesome. Well,
and that's what we've put into practice with what I call ultralights in our clinic here with just the soft chambers.
Well, we're going to come back on the flip side of this commercial break, and we're going to continue this conversation, but this is fabulous. All right, I'm Dr. Ardis. Welcome back to the Dr. Ardis Show. We're having a fabulous conversation with Dr. Meyer and Dr. Fogarty. The next sponsors for this 22-minute segment are going to be these in order. Let's go with KirkElliottPhD.com. Move your money over there. He's helping us protect our money as they're trying to destroy it and take everything you've saved, earned over the last, decades of your life. Kirk Elliott's both a PhD in theology and economics. He knows how to actually manage your money, take care of it, save it, so they can't destroy it and ruin it. All right, everything you've worked for. H2bev.com. I talk about this all the time. I actually start every day, my wife and I both, with drinking 1 hydro shot every morning for nitric oxide to increase circulation, which you're going to learn about more with hyperbaric chambers here in this conversation. 10% off with the promo code DOCTOR. Go to H2bev.com. Next sponsor is parasitetesting.com. At least 70% of every single autoimmune disease I've ever seen were caused by parasites. That's just one of the lies we've been told for years, that they don't exist in America. There is no force field around the United States of America keeping parasites out. That is just something you're lied about. All right, use the promo code Ardis10 ! For 10% off of everything you get there. Next sponsor is GrowMaxWaterHydro.com. They're trying to destroy your food supply. You might as well start growing your own food. And you might want to take glyphosate, any other chlorine, fluoride in your water, and get it out of that before you put it in your water that you're watering your plants with before you eat those veggies. Use the promo code DOCTOR there for 10% off your order. Next slide. Oh, yeah, this is DrStellaMD.com. Y'all know who she is? We all do. Go to DrStellaMD.com. Use the promo code DOCTOR for 5% off anything there. She can also help you get ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, NAC, and other things. Use her. She's awesome. All right, so we're back now with Dr. Fogarty, Dr. Meyer. You referenced here, Dr. Fogarty, a publication back in 1991 with Anthony Fauci and the use of NAC and glutathione in helping patients with HIV virus. Okay, so I looked it up. I'm going to hold it up here on the screen so y'all can see it. I'm actually looking at it on the computer. Can you see it there? Okay, I'm actually looking at it. Can't really see that far. Okay, suppression. This is the title. February 1991. Suppression of human immunodeficiency virus expression, HIV expression in chronically infected monocyte cells by glutathione and NAC. All right, so on page 989 of this publication, it actually reads, in the discussion parts of this study, I just love learning and then showing people the lies you're being told and exposing them. This is the conclusions of the study back in 1991 with Dr. Anthony Fauci, included as an author. Our data demonstrates that these 3 thiols affect HIV expression at multiple stages of the HIV activation process. NAC suppressed both the HIV production and the total viral protein synthesis. At lower concentrations of NAC, however, that did not affect HIV protein synthesis or mRNA accumulation, but appeared to suppress predominantly post-translational events of HIV expression. So there was a dose-dependent effectiveness of NAC to improve glutathione use and expression to limit HIV proliferation. Isn't that brilliant that in 1991 we knew that stuff? Phenomenal.
Yeah. And the Huskers just fired their head coach, and Tony Fauci is going into retirement and should be in jail. But he never told the UNMC researchers that got remdesivir past the EUA all about that, but I did. I actually emailed all of those remdesivir researchers before they even announced the clinical trial for it.
No way. When was that?
What's that?
When was that? Do you remember?
I was emailing them in February and March of 2020. That's awesome. And so, just to move this more towards the positive and what we've been able to accomplish out of the Northern Plains, obviously, none of those researchers, Dr. Andre Khalil in particular, were going to listen to me. He's a captured Brazilian infectious disease specialist whose big win was, getting this EUA thing through for remdesivir. But there were pulmonologists in the critical care units at UNMC who were calling me and Dr. Mickey Keim saying, get us into Mickey Keim's old chambers if we're within 20 minutes of succumbing to the ventilators for this pandemic virus. So by May of 2020, after I've been literally a one-man lone ranger up here in the Northern Plains, getting out all of this information to all of these academic physicians in the Dakotas and Nebraska. And then we got the aircraft HBOT thing published on a website in June of 2020. I was barking into New York AM radio station with Patty Finn, healthcare advocate and attorney, telling all of New York about how NYU has just finished their phase 1 trial for hyperbarics for moderate to severe COVID, and while all of the ICU docs in New York City were losing 90% of their patients, these guys who were affiliated with the Winthrop Regenerative Medicine Clinic at NYU and doing wound care hyperbarics as surgeons and ER docs, they basically saved 90% of their patients in this phase 1 trial. And meanwhile, I'm getting blocked on Facebook every time I put it out there that there's hyperbarics can stop all this pandemic stuff. Because then, circling through the summer of 2020 and everybody's getting a bit of a reprieve and we're opening up and I end up coming back up from my Nebraska vacation home and getting a call from another great healer in medicine and a great healing tradition that's mainly on the West Coast, but my naturopathic physician colleague, Leslie Link, had identified that there's about $500,000 left in the North Dakota CARES Act grant fund. And there's a request for proposals, and Leslie and I pitched to the committee overseeing that fund, the last of that fund, which was headed by the North Dakota Department of Agriculture Commissioner, Doug Gehring, who's now a good personal friend of mine. And I've sold him a soft hyperbaric chamber, and he's gotten a lot more farming done this last year since he's had it.
That's awesome.
But
oxygen is good for life. Oxygen's good for life, right?
Right. Doug gave us the blessing of the last $50,000 of the $15 million that came from the federal government to the state of North Dakota for the CARES Act to write up these mild hyperbaric protocols. It was in the actual grant submission that we are to broadcast these innovations anywhere and wherever we can. And so this is actually, you're helping us meet the criteria of our grant. Thank you, Dr. Ardis.
You're welcome.
And
the world thanks you.
And so I also developed this purple powder, and Brad and I have on our website, it's thepurplepowder.com, but it's basically the patented antiviral 3 amino acid complex that Dr. Crum brought into the world and into the intellectual property of the English speaking nations as an antiviral. It's amazing. I've done pain management for about 5 to 7 years in North Dakota, and every time I would ever put somebody on Dr. Crum's formulation, they would never get influenza or anything again. And so coming around for this pandemic and basically kind of trying to create something that tastes a little better and holds in your mouth a little longer, so that these amino acids and the pigments in the beetroot that I have in it, and spirulina, which spirulina is the most phenomenally important single cell species from God above. Just go on PubMed and look at spirulina and do searches with spirulina and cancer, spirulina and neurological injury, a stroke. Our taxes have paid for a ton of research on spirulina itself, and it's the most important stroke neuroprotective agent that I've ever seen. I started researching it over a decade ago as a radioprotective agent that I could take while I'm doing interventional radiology cases and protecting myself from the radiation that I'm exposing myself and my patients to. And so the purple powder is basically 80% Dr. Crum's genius, and then get some beetroot in there for the Eastern North Dakota ag world, which is a big sugar beet area. And lo and behold, if you do a search on beetroot and vascular in PubMed, you're going to see all these exercise physiologists have been starting to do studies on it, on its nitric oxide generating potential at the capillary level that's helping athletes. And that in and of itself is also helping specifically with the viremia and the problems with the spike protein in opening up and dilating some of these capillaries that are getting hit by the spike protein. And I'm just going to turn it over to Brad, because he's had some really great clinical experiences with our patients down here in Okoboji with just the purple powder even.
All right, so I want you, before we do that, Dr. Meyer, Dr. Fogarty, I want you to like point behind you at that picture before the computer screen monitor turns off. Explain that to what we're seeing there.
So that's a CTA image from a CTA of the chest. It's basically of the left anterior descending artery, and it was ordered up one night for a COVID patient who was probably having an MI. Usually you can't always see the LAD that clearly on some
MI
of these
stands for
CTA chests. And so that particular image has a widowmaker lesion and a very tight stenosis in the LAD, and the ER doc that I called later about that was happy to know that his COVID workup was really potentially related to a mix of MI and COVID issues.
So MI means myocardial infarction for those who don't know. I always like making sure everybody knows everything. Death of heart muscle primarily. But is that a blood clot you see on there?
Well, it's a mixed plaque of some more chronic calcification and then some subacute, what we call soft plaque, and stenosis in the LAD, which is the big vessel that feeds the entire left ventricle for the most part.
Gotcha. All right, now, Dr. Meyer.
Yeah.
Did you find in your hospital experience in Sioux Falls, were they telling you to make sure you give everybody intravenous NAC to make sure we save these lives? Because I remember early in 2020 hearing the FDA say, we are no longer going to let supplement companies even sell NAC. We're going to make that a pharmaceutical prescription and change its registration. There's been an all-out assault by those supplement companies, obviously, for 70 years being free to sell it. They've been combating the FDA, and they've obviously not done that yet. But did you find they were using and suggesting NAC be used for COVID patients in your experience?
Well, we kind of snuck it past the goal line in a certain sense after I was relieved of my services and a life saved, because a lot of the folks were an affiliate of the Sioux Falls Corporation here in Northwest Iowa. But the community then would call me and ask when they were hospitalized with COVID, what do we advocate for besides saying no to remdesivir? And I would say, try the IV NAC. And, that's decreasing your mucus production in the lung. That's why it helps with the cystic fibrosis. So it's increasing oxygenation, and it's also increasing glutathione levels, which those are absolutely just lowered beyond all belief with COVID, because the mitochondria, the power sources of the cell, absolutely just get slashed with COVID-19 and the spike protein. But so anyway, these patients would go in and upset the doctors and my old colleagues by saying no to the remdesivir. And, oh, by the way, can we have IV NAC? Precedent has already been set in that hospital. Somebody else got it. And so a couple more doctors within the system then agreed to do it. And those lives were saved as well. So again, it's one of those missions that I wish, as far as an inpatient save, that more and more people over the last 2 years would have known about. We worked with defendingtherepublic.org and Sydney Powell. And, she has advocated so well as a conduit between all the lawyers in the legal community that's out, when the fighting the fight with the patriot doctors out there. But she's even, set us up with a individual that was near intubation in Orlando. And we corresponded with the family and advised on the IV NAC, Dr. Fogarty and myself. And that was another life saved. So, ivermectin's fantastic, but and hydroxychloroquine, but the two big boys, the NAC, the glutathione precursors, and hyperbarics were the huge miss on this pandemic in the hospital. Of course, we know that what they're using was making people sicker with the IV remdesivir. And Dr. Harch, actually, we were on a webinar with Dr. Merrick and Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Harch, Fogarty, myself a few weeks ago on FLCCC. They've got a weekly webinar, and we talk about spike protein injury, vaccine injury, and hyperbaric. So that's a good thing to look up as well. And Dr. Harch was talking about how with the intubation, you're actually, with the baroreceptors, they're kicking off more a cytokine storm. So they increase the pressure when the patient's intubated, and that is putting pressure on these receptors in the lungs that stimulate the cytokine storm, this inflammatory storm. So that's where people that were, once you got intubated, you're becoming worse, as you were, when you could have been just doing gentle oxygen all around you in a hyperbaric chamber. That in April, a study came out, I believe it was of Brazil or Argentina.
Yep.
Brazil.
No, Argentina.
Argentina.
1.4.
The 1.4 atmospheres of hyperbaric therapy, 1 hour a day in the hospital, decreased their hospitalization from 9 days to 3 days.
Yeah.
And so the evidence out there is overwhelming. And then you fast forward to what we're doing now, and we're trying to get the word out to other physicians, including, Dr. Pierre Corey, and we've got other physicians from around the country starting to come here now for some education on hyperbarics and, low pressure therapy for COVID long haul and vaccine injury. And, Dr. Corey himself had a case, and he speaks of in that webinar, of 3 months, nothing's working for this guy that was vaccine injured. On his first hyperbaric and second hyperbaric treatment, the guy, after being on his back for months, no energy, was all of a sudden, that was it. That was the magic bullet to revive those injured mitochondria, feed the cells the glutathione. And so we got a lot of folks, in this, that are getting excited in the medical community. Word's picking up about the value of hyperbarics in the recovery stage, let alone what else we're seeing in the clinic here. It would blow the same thing that Orville Cunningham was doing in Ohio with his hyperbaric hospital in the 30s before the AMA shut him down. He was doing all kinds of off-label treatment. We've got an MS.
Well, there was no FDA to give labels at that point in time.
Yeah.
So everything Orville Cunningham was doing, and this is going to blow people's minds. We had a 5-story hyperbaric hospital in America in the 1920s. It was literally, it's the Holy Grail, the Garden of Eden of everything that we've always been trained and taught to do as physicians and healers. And it simply works through simple physics and increased bioenergetics. And if you just power up these cells and let God's mRNA species go out and be replicated and proliferated and then translated into the right proteins, it's the natural intelligence of the genes that we're imbued with by God that is getting powered up and is defeating all of these diseases. And at the same time, it doesn't need to be looked at as a competition. I mean, everything that we do in medicine, and I've told this to Brad, it works better if you're using hyperbarics as an adjunct. And the Argentinian study, that 9 day to 3 day decreased length of stay that's a huge cost saver in that whole society, that they can get people out of their hospital systems in 3 days with an adjunct of hyperbaric oxygen therapy at 1.4 ATA, which is only about 11.5 feet of water depth. Okay, so we're talking about scuba diving at very shallow layers, and people get scared by this word hyperbaric. And I've always been trying to re-encode this into altitude wellness. And when you go skydiving, for instance, you jump out of a plane at 9,000 feet, you're adding 30% more air pressure in that jump fairly rapidly as you hit critical acceleration levels and critical velocity. And so you're basically increasing the gas pressure on your body down to about 1,000 feet, and then you pull the chute, and then you're still increasing the gas pressure slowly. And every airline pilot and every flight attendant in this country, in the way I look at the world from the mountaintop down, in terms of altitude physiology, they're sleeping at 30% more pressure in Houston, Texas, before they take off from Houston Hobby. And then as they go up, they're working at basically 9,000 feet altitude all day. And so we have a whole occupational class of people in transportation who are every day proving how safe it is to toggle between 3 and 4 psi pressure changes in the human body.
And
And
also,
physiologically, it's actually more stressful to fly and lose pressure. You know, a guy like this CTA cardiac LAD stenosis that you just saw up on the screen there. That's the kind of person who actually, when they lose pressure very quickly in an airplane, they're the ones that might actually start to have some chest pain. But did you need a prescription to go fly on that plane? No. So there's a whole hit job going out too right now from the AMA and the UHMS, which is the major medical society of the hard chamber, high-end medical grade hyperbaric crowd, to stop everyone they can who has a soft chamber facility. And like, for instance, the Missouri Chiropractor Association, they have it in their scope of practice to actually have soft chambers. I've been telling all of my chiropractic buddies up in North Dakota, especially the great ones in Bismarck at the state capitol, we've got to get the chiropractors to make a political movement to bring air pressure therapy into the chiropractic world, because it is a physical therapy. It's using God's molecular gases as your hands at some level behind the scenes in doing what the chiropractic world is doing. That's all really wonderful for, you know, tons of our patients. And so you start to get into the insurance grid and these kinds of concepts too, where it's like, you know, insurance companies are paying for chiropractors to go help with post MVA issues and neck pain and these kinds of things. And so really, if there's somebody out there who's in the insurance world listening to you, Dr. Ardis, I think this would be phenomenal. But if America had a single insurance company that would just see the benefit of getting people into this simple physics therapeutics of air pressure therapy, and they could decrease the cost of the drugs, of all kinds of different therapies to all of their patients and clients and insurance carrier folks, it would be huge for this country. But I hearken back to, you know, just the simple fact of when Dr. Harch and I published the Eden Carlson case, and we basically rebuilt a child's brain with mild hyperbaric air therapy. It was
show the image. Don't we have an image of this?
This is a janitor case from
Ren,
what
throw it up. I want to see it.
Tell my medical students, this is a janitor case. The janitor can come into the reading room and see this image and say, "Hey, doc, there's something going on there, isn't there?" Yeah, of course there is.
Well, take my audience through what you see. We've got like 3 minutes left in this segment.
Okay, so the image on the left side of the screen is Eden Carlson's brain at 29 days after her anoxic brain injury, where she required 9 ampules of epinephrine and 90 minutes of resuscitative measures to get her heart back. And she basically left Arkansas Children's Hospital as in a permanently vegetative state. And that was what her brain looked like. And all of that white stuff, that's cerebral spinal fluid. And it's a marker for how much her brain has shrunk. And when I'm looking at that as a radiologist in the United States of America, I'm saying that's probably the brain of an 80-year-old demented patient. But it's a 3-year-old who just had a severe anoxic brain injury. And then Dr. Harch sent an oxygen concentrator to the family in Bentonville, Arkansas. And in the first hour of just a little bit of extra oxygen being dissolved in the plasma fraction of her bloodstream was enough to get Eden to start smiling and tracking her mom. And so they did that for about 2 weeks. And then that was the cue to Dr. Harch that going further with increased dissolution and increased gas pressure in the blood plasma through the hyperbaric chamber is going to work. And so he initially actually put Eden and her mom into the same medical grade hyperbaric chamber. And he found, he's the most astute clinician and safety person in the hyperbaric realm. He found that Eden's mom was having a little bit of an oxygen toxicity syndrome on the first chamber run at 1.3 atmospheres, 100% oxygen. So then he switched over to medical air. And so then now there's just 20% oxygen in the gas fraction that's going into Eden. And then after about 10 1-hour treatments, Eden was already starting to talk. And then she's getting her long fibers back, and he went out to 40 1-hour treatments, and she basically was walking and talking about 3 months after that first MRI. And then the second MRI that you saw there, with her brain regrown by 20%, which I mathematically calculated and measured every inch of her brain basically, and overdid it so that there's nobody saying that, hey, these guys are just throwing up some fuzzy images that we don't understand. That's a calculated 19% increase in surface area on that image, which is taken at the same spot in the brain between the left and the right. And so that's a normal pediatric MRI of the brain in the coronal plane that was obtained at Children's Hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas, 6 months after the near drowning event. And then, lo and behold, in the next year, there's another kid that comes through Little Rock Children's Hospital, same exact scenario. And guess what never happened for that kid? That kid never got hyperbaric therapy.
That's awful. And I consider it criminal. Now, we're actually out of the time here, but I want you guys I'm going to share a couple things. The purplepowder.com reference. Go there and support these guys. It's Fogarty and Meyer. Go buy the purple powder. I see their 90 servings bottles out of stock, but the other two are in stock. So go buy that stuff. And I love nitric oxide. I teach people about it all the time and get the benefits of glutathione, NAC, all that good stuff out of here to improve your life. And then give them references to sites where they can follow you, learn more about these soft hyperbaric chambers. I don't know if you guys have references where people can go buy these. I want to speak to all the chiropractors in the world, though, first. All chiropractors, look at hyperbarics and oxygenation of tissues. And then insurance companies, the premiums and deductibles you make way more money if you can keep your people healthy and not sick and dying and in hospital rooms. You don't have to pay out as much. So you should absolutely consider pushing hyperbarics to be used on patients around the world. It will reduce the cost you have to pay out for medical treatments outside of hyperbaric therapy. It'll save you tons of money, and that's all y'all want is more money. So insurance companies, go make more money, reduce loss of paying out for medical care. If you can keep people healthy, no symptoms, better for you. All right, go ahead. Where can they find more and learn more about the hyperbaric chambers?
We're on Facebook at Aeronautics Performance Clinic, and Aeronautics is spelled with an X, AERONAUTIX. So aeronauticsperformance.com is our webpage. Our phone number up here in Iowa is 712-339-6024. And if anybody wants to do any kind of quick references to my career in medicine, especially with Dr. Harch and some of our national and international news stories and medical breakthroughs, if you do a search on hyperbaric Eden and then my last name Fogarty, you'll pull up a lot of this stuff regarding Eden. But if you just do hyperbaric and Fogarty and Harch, you'll pull up the whole list of everything we've kind of done. And Harch, hbot.com. He's our mentor. He is the academic dean of hyperbaric medicine across the world. And if you're a football coach and you got the green book this year, we're Harch Hyperbarics, hbot.com, and Aeronautics are one of 3 color spreads in the green book, which went out to all of the high school, college, and NFL coaches and XFL. So those of you in Texas football world, tell the coaches to come check out our ad in the green book.
Well, I'd love to have you guys come back on and continue to enlighten people on hyperbarics and how that improves. I want people to know, when you hear the word hyperbaric, don't be afraid. First time I ever heard it, I thought, man, does hyperbaric mean excess Ralph Barrick info? Okay, no, I'm just kidding. No, that's not what it means. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. Ralph Barrick, let him go. All right, so Dr. Brad Meyer, please tell them how they can follow you and support you.
Yep, it's again, aeronauticsperformance.com. Is it Aeronautics Performance Clinic or Performance?
And do we have a link for that, Ren, if we do put it up on the slide or put it up on the screen?
I sent the website to
Yep.
I think we've
To,
got it. Let's put it up on the
your
screen and we'll
wonderful-
wrap this
your
up. There we go.
wonderful-
There it is.
Beautiful. And it is 712-339-6024.
Also doctor's orders, if you want a really great synopsis and a wonderful encapsulation of what Sydney Powell and her camp has done to get Brad's story out. That's another great one. Doctor's orders. It came out in December of 21. And Marilyn's story is also a little 10-minute story about the gal who Brad saved her life with the IVNAC play.
That's awesome.
I tell you what,
thank you
Brian,
enough. And we'll do another interview here. Put me up on the screen, Ren. Hey, there I am. Haha. You too rock. We're past time here, but this is recording, which is great. But I do want people to know that I've actually learned a lot about hyperbarics from Dr. Molly James and Dr. Deb Viglione, and they've been using that, I know, out in St. Louis. Molly James has been with her James Clinic, and I hope she talked about that at the Gateway to Freedom conference. I don't know if you guys participated in that, but I was one of the first speakers there and then had to leave for another conference. But that was just a couple weeks ago, and it was phenomenal. So
I've been pushing Molly to get Dr. Harch on stage at whatever she's doing. So maybe you can put that bug in her ear.
Oh, I will for sure. You two rock. Thank you for all you do. And I really get a sense you guys are trying to educate people and save lives. And I really got that out of you, Dr. Meyer, when we were together there in Iowa. And I'm sorry for all the crap that's been going on. I'm sure it's been as disturbing for you guys to witness what would be considered, in my mind, atrocities in the way they're handling medicine and taking care of patients around the world. But really commend you guys.
As long as we're off camera now and kind of off the record, but me and David Hartsuch and Iowa legislator John Jacobson, we've all surrounded Brad with shields, including some legal interstate commerce shields, and Doc Hartsuch actually documented that the executive director of the Iowa Board of Medicine had criminally inhibited communications to physicians in the state of Iowa regarding the use of hydroxychloroquine. And then, of course, Brad used it as a U.S. Military physician, flight surgeon in the Mideast in 2011. And so they came after Brad, the Iowa Board of Medicine, as well as Lee Merritt and Molly and a couple others, including Dr. Hartsuch, for COVID misinformation and gave us these 20 ridiculous questions that they posed to Brad and Molly. Specifically included the hyperbaric stuff that I've been teaching them. And across state lines, that actually becomes a very powerful legal precedent, because the racketeering laws of this great nation invoke the inhibition of commerce across state lines. And so we've kind of got we got the dragon by a golden lasso here from other states, and including the Nebraska Attorney General, who happens to be a friend of the family on my mom's side. He penned the 45-page document that said, it's no physician should be inhibited from writing prescriptions for ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. And we're sticking that in the face of the Iowa Board of Medicine and criminals that are coming after Brad. So I think we got them beat, and I think they know it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm very proud of you guys. And it was very exciting to hear when the Attorney General there in Nebraska said we're not going to be punishing any more doctors for prescribing hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. It's phenomenal. And like Brad and so many other medical doctors, even the chiropractic board was coming after me for the last 10 months. And it wasn't until last week when the Texas Medical Board decided to upgrade its standard of care to include hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin for all COVID-19 patients in Texas. The very next day, I heard from the Texas Chiropractic Board that they don't know what to do with me and are no longer pursuing action. Rock and roll.
Good
That's
for you.
Takes. So anyway, it's very exciting.
It's a violation of the Nuremberg codes, the Hippocratic oaths, the oaths we take as DOs and MDs and chiropractors, the healing codes. And it's literally from my perspective, at some level, these people are interfering with a sacred interpersonal relationship that is blessed by God above for us to heal our fellow, friends, family, citizens, and humans on this planet.
Amen to
And
that.
I'm going to go to the grave swinging. They can break me, they can bankrupt me. They clearly haven't, Dr. Ardis, and because I got a lot of dirt on these people.
I love dirt.
They
I love
don't
getting
want
dirty.
Ted Fogarty. They don't want Ted Fogarty's name in the airwaves.
Well, we're putting them on the airwaves all around the world, and these audiences have benefited from this interview. So thank you guys for all you do. We love you, and thank you for standing for the innocent. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
It's so great to meet you. Thank you for being a great American, and your communications have saved so many lives. It's humbling. So thank you for calling us and getting us on.
Well, thank
God
you
bless.
for providing a tool that allows lives to continue without the threat of impending
Hey,
doom.
hey, Brian, the one thing that I will say as a family physician that is blowing my mind here is it is such a cost. It's such a market disruptor, these hyperbarics across all disease states, but the tsunami that's coming now with all this vaccine injury and COVID spike protein injury, we're seeing so many people respond. I didn't get into the anecdote, all the clinical stories of what we've seen here, but people need to know.
Well, if I do I'm going to do a healing conference here in Dallas here very soon. Would you like to come down here and do a presentation?
Yeah, we'd love to do that.
Okay, I've got a list of people I want to include, and those are only those that are providing tools for healing. Because there's so many people that'll just say there's nothing that can be done. Yeah, right. I'm only going to bring people here who know that something can be done, and there's got to be options for them. So anything that could be a possibility, I need to have them here. So if you guys are open to that, we'll make sure you're included.
Great. Yeah.
It's going to be very soon, by the way, because I can't wait. It's driving me nuts.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
I'm
Be
Dr.
in touch.
Ardis. Audiences, be great. You too. I'm proud of you, and you guys stay safe.
God bless.
God bless you. Bye.
Disclaimer. Please note, the following presentation is solely for informational purposes and should not be seen as a replacement for advice provided by your physician. It is important not to rely on the information from this presentation for diagnosis, treatment, medication prescription, or any other form of medical care. Always consult with your physician or healthcare professionals before taking any medication, nutritional supplement, herbal remedy, homeopathic treatment, or pursuing any health-related procedure. If you have a medical condition or believe you might have one, promptly contact your healthcare provider. Do not disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it based on this presentation's information as the products or services purchased from it do not establish a doctor-patient relationship between you and any affiliated physicians. Statements about dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.